The smoke alarm wouldn't stop screaming, and neither would I. On the inside, at least. On the outside, I stood perfectly still in my own kitchen, while Trevor's best friend Devon poured half a fire extinguisher over what used to be my grandmother's lasagna recipe. The white foam covered everything. The countertops, the floor, my apron, and apparently, my dignity. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Babe, I told you not to try cooking Italian, Trevor said from his throne position on my bar stool, surrounded by 8 of his closest friends who'd invaded my loft apartment for what he called an intimate gathering. His voice carried that special blend of condescension and amusement that had become his signature over the past 6 months. Maybe stick to ordering takeout, yeah? It's what you're good at. Laughter erupted around him, not polite chuckles, but full-throated guffaws that bounced off the exposed brick walls and 20-foot ceilings of the industrial space I'd painstakingly renovated myself, though Trevor believed I rented it furnished from some wealthy landlord. I wiped foam from my cheek with the back of my hand, playing the part I'd perfected. The slightly clumsy girlfriend who tried too hard. The girl who couldn't quite measure up to Trevor's standards but was grateful he tolerated her anyway. Sorry, I mumbled, reaching for paper towels. I'll order something. Pizza? God, yes. Trevor's friend Amber chimed in, examining her manicured nails like she'd just witnessed something distasteful. Before you burn down this entire building, though I'm sure your landlord would love that. Finally get to kick you out and rent to someone who can actually afford this place. More laughter. Trevor didn't defend me. He never did. What none of them knew, what Trevor especially didn't know, was that I'd triggered that smoke alarm deliberately. The lasagna had been perfect 20 minutes ago. I'd photographed it, sent the image to my assistant with instructions to post it on my anonymous food blog that had 2.3 million followers, and then cranked the oven to 550 degrees, because tonight wasn't about dinner. Tonight was about the final test. And Trevor was failing spectacularly. I've got it handled, I said quietly, pulling out my phone. Not to order pizza, but to check the text that had just vibrated in my pocket. My lawyer. Documents ready. Give the word. I slipped the phone back into my apron pocket and smiled. Pizza will be here in 30 minutes. Make sure you tip this time, Trevor called out. Remember last week when you forgot and the delivery guy gave you that look? So embarrassing. I had tipped last week. $50, actually. The delivery driver had been a college student working 3 jobs, and I'd recognized the exhaustion in his eyes. But Trevor had pocketed the cash when I went to the bathroom, something I'd only discovered later when checking my security footage. Yes, I had security cameras in my own apartment. Multiple. Hidden. Recording everything. I'll remember, I said, moving toward the living room where everyone had settled into my custom-designed furniture. Trevor sprawled across the sectional I'd commissioned from a craftsman in Oregon, his arm draped over the back in a possessive gesture that might have looked protective to outsiders but felt like ownership to me. Sit down, babe, he said, patting the small space beside him. Barely enough room, forcing me to squeeze in awkwardly while his friends took up the comfortable seats. We were just talking about the Bahamas trip next month. My stomach tightened. The Bahamas trip. The one Trevor had been planning with his friends for weeks, using my credit card that he'd somehow gotten access to. The card connected to my personal account, not the corporate ones, but still showing a balance that should have raised questions. $17,000 for the villa rental, Devon was saying, scrolling through his phone. Split 9 ways, that's about $1,900 each. Trevor, you said your girl could cover your share, right? All eyes turned to me. Trevor's hand landed on my knee, squeezing just a bit too hard. A warning. She's got some money saved up. Trevor said smoothly. Her grandmother left her a little something. Isn't that right, babe? This was his latest story, the one he told his friends to explain how I could afford to contribute to his lifestyle without having what he called a real job. I worked remotely, he told people, doing data entry for some boring company. Barely made minimum wage, but that inheritance stretched far when you were frugal. The truth? I'd never received an inheritance. My grandmother was alive and well, living in a villa in Tuscany that I'd purchased for her 3 years ago. And I didn't do data entry. I was the founder and CEO of Catalyst Solutions, a tech company specializing in AI-driven logistics software. We just closed our Series C funding round at a $340 million valuation. Forbes had called me a visionary under 40. TechCrunch had featured me in their Founders to Watch series, though they'd used my photo in shadow to maintain my requested anonymity. I preferred operating from the shadows. It gave me clarity, showed me who people really were when they thought I had nothing to offer but my company. I can contribute, I said softly, watching Trevor's face light up. Perfect, he said, kissing my temple in that performative way he did around others. See, guys? I told you she'd come through. Amber leaned forward, her expression something between pity and contempt. That's so generous of you, honestly. I mean, Trevor told us about your job situation, how hard it's been finding anything better, but still spending your savings on a trip you're not even invited to? That's real love. The room went quiet for just a beat. Trevor's fingers dug deeper into my knee. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Wait, she's not coming? Devon's girlfriend Jenna asked. She was new to the group, only been dating Devon for 2 months. Still had some humanity left. That seems... It's a friend's trip, Trevor interrupted smoothly. We do this every year. No partners, just the core group. Natasha understands. Natasha. That was me. Natasha Chen, supposedly. A name I'd given him on our first date, a test to see if he'd remember details or care enough to ask questions. He hadn't. 8 months later, he still introduced me to new people as Natasha Chen, freelance data entry specialist, grateful girlfriend. My real name was Vivian Reeves. Dr. Vivian Reeves, actually. I had a PhD in computer science from MIT, completed at 24. But Trevor had never asked about my education, my dreams, my past. He'd simply filled in the blanks with whatever narrative served him. I understand, I said. And I did. I understood everything now. The doorbell rang. Too early for pizza. I stood, grateful for the excuse to escape Trevor's grip. Through the video intercom, I saw them. 2 people in professional attire, badges visible. Ms. Reeves, the woman said. We're here as discussed. I pressed the button to unlock the building's entrance, then turned back to find Trevor watching me suspiciously. Who is it? Wrong apartment, I said. They're looking for someone else. But I didn't sit back down. Instead, I moved to the kitchen, pulled out my laptop from its hidden compartment inside the pantry and set it on the counter. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up files I'd organized weeks ago. The knock came at my door. I opened it. Ms. Reeves, the woman said again, louder now, meant to be heard. I'm Detective Sarah Morrison, and this is Detective James Park. May we come in? Trevor shot to his feet. What the hell? It's fine, I said calmly, stepping aside to let the detectives enter. I've been expecting them. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Trevor's face cycled through emotions: confusion, fear, anger. He settled on defensive indignation. Natasha, what's going on? Why are the police here? My name, I said quietly, meeting his eyes for the first time all evening with my real self. No mask, No performance. Is not Natasha. It's Dr. Vivian Reeves. And these aren't police officers. They're private investigators. You could have heard a pin drop. Sarah Morrison stepped forward, her voice clear and professional. We've completed the investigation Ms. Reeves commissioned 6 weeks ago. Trevor Daniels, we have documented evidence of the following: unauthorized use of credit cards not in your name, identity theft, fraud, and stalking behaviors including GPS tracking without consent. Trevor's face went white. This is insane. Natasha. Show them, I said to Sarah. She pulled out a tablet, and suddenly my TV, my 85-inch OLED that Trevor loved watching sports on, lit up with security footage. The first clip showed Trevor going through my purse while I showered, photographing my credit cards. The second showed him installing a tracker on my car. The third showed him in my apartment when I was supposedly at work, rifling through my desk, my closet, my personal belongings. Oh my God, Jenna whispered. But I wasn't done. Switch to file 2, I instructed. The screen changed to bank statements, Trevor's bank statements. Every charge he'd made on my card highlighted in red: the villa in the Bahamas, designer clothes, bar tabs for his friends, gambling losses, a total of $47,000 over 8 months. This is a mistake, Trevor started, but his voice had lost its confidence. File 3. Now the screen showed text messages, Trevor's messages, conversations with his friends where he called me his meal ticket, messages to his ex-girlfriend where he admitted he was playing the long game with a pathetic rich girl he'd found on a dating app, messages to Devon where he joked about how easy it is to manipulate someone desperate for love. The room had gone from silent to suffocating. Amber was staring at her lap. Devon had gone pale. Trevor's other friends were looking anywhere but at him. You catfished me, Trevor finally said, grasping for any defense. You lied about who you were. I gave you a fake first name on a dating app, I corrected. Standard safety practice for women meeting strangers online. You never asked for ID. You never asked about my work beyond surface questions. You saw what you wanted to see. Someone you could use. The credit cards that you stole from my purse, photographed, and used without permission? Yes, that's called fraud. Multiple felonies, actually. Sarah Morrison cleared her throat. Ms. Reeves has chosen not to press criminal charges at this time, contingent on immediate repayment of all stolen funds plus damages, and your agreement to certain terms. What terms? Trevor's voice was barely a whisper now. I walked to my laptop, turned it to face him. You're going to transfer back every penny you stole. Your parents will co-sign a payment plan for what you've already spent. You'll sign an NDA agreeing never to contact me or speak about me publicly. You'll attend a court-mandated counseling program. And you'll tell everyone in this room right now exactly what you did and why. I'm not. Or, I interrupted calmly, I press charges. Multiple felonies mean prison time, Trevor. Years. Your career in pharmaceutical sales? Over. Your reputation? Destroyed. Your family? Humiliated. I let that hang in the air. The choice is yours. But you have 60 seconds to decide, and these witnesses will sign statements either way. Trevor looked around the room, searching for allies. He found none. Devon wouldn't meet his eyes. Amber had tears streaming down her face. Whether from shame or shock, I couldn't tell. His other friends had begun edging toward the door. Trevor's voice cracked. I'm sorry. Not to me, I said coldly. To them. Tell them what you did. He swallowed hard. 58 seconds had passed. I used her, he said finally. I saw she had money and I took advantage. The credit cards, the tracking, all of it. I did it. Why? I pressed. Because I could. Because I thought she was desperate enough not to question it. 45 seconds. And the messages? About me being pathetic? About playing me? Trevor's shoulders slumped. I said those things. I meant them at the time. I'm sorry. To who? To you. Vivian. Dr. Reeves. I'm sorry. I let the silence stretch for a moment, then nodded to Sarah. She placed a stack of papers on my counter. Sign these, all of them. Initial every page. Trevor moved like a man walking to his execution. His hand shook as he picked up the pen I offered. It took him 15 minutes to work through all the documents, his friends watching in stunned silence. When he finished, James Park collected the papers, verified the signatures, and nodded to Sarah. "We'll file these with the court on Monday," Sarah said. "Mr. Daniels, you'll receive notification of your first counseling appointment and payment due date within 48 hours. Ms. Reeves, is there anything else?" "Yes," I said. I pulled out my phone, typed a quick message, and held it up for Trevor to see. "I'm sending a donation to the Domestic Abuse Prevention Foundation in your name, $47,000. Every penny you stole, matched by me. They help people recognize financial abuse and emotional manipulation. Maybe someday you'll learn what you took from someone who only wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had." Trevor's face crumbled. "Please," he whispered. "Can we talk? Privately?" "No. I know I messed up, but—" "You didn't mess up," I interrupted. "Messing up is forgetting an anniversary. You executed a deliberate, calculated campaign of financial and emotional abuse. You tracked my movements. You stole from me. You humiliated me for entertainment. You isolated me from confidence in myself. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. I can change. I swear, if you give me another chance." "Trevor," I said, my voice finally showing the exhaustion I felt. "You had 8 months of chances. Every single day you had a choice to be honest, to be kind, to be real. You chose differently every time." The doorbell rang again, the actual pizza this time. I paid the delivery driver, tipped him another $50, and turned back to the group. "Food's here," I said, "but you all need to leave. Now." They moved quickly, gathering coats and bags. Amber paused at the door. "I'm sorry," she said. "I laughed at you. I judged you. I'm really sorry." "You believed what he told you," I said, not unkindly. "But maybe next time, question why someone constantly puts down their partner. It's usually projection." She nodded and left. Devon was the last of the friends to leave, other than Trevor, who stood frozen in my living room. "For what it's worth," Devon said quietly, "I should have said something. The way he talked about you, I knew it was wrong. I'm sorry I was a coward." "You can still choose not to be," I replied. When they were all gone, it was just me, Trevor, and the investigators. Sarah and James excused themselves to wait in the hallway, giving us one final moment. "How long have you known?" Trevor asked, his voice hollow. "That you were using me? Since about week 3? When you accidentally saw my credit card and the tracking on my movements became too precise to be coincidence. I hired investigators at week 4. The rest has been documentation." "Why didn't you just end it?" I considered the question. "Because I needed to know how far you'd go. I needed to prove to myself that my instincts were right, that you were exactly what you seemed, and not just someone making bad choices. And honestly, part of me hoped you'd prove me wrong, that you'd wake up one day and choose differently." "I would have," he said desperately. "If you'd just told me who you really were, then I wouldn't be the person you chose," I finished. "I'd be the bank account you chose. See the difference?" He didn't answer. "You can go," I said finally. "The investigators will be in touch about the payment schedule. Don't contact me. Don't come back here. Don't try to explain or apologize again. Just be better to whoever comes next." Trevor walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. I really did care about you, at first. No, I said softly. You cared about what you thought I was. You never knew me well enough to care about who I actually am. That was the whole problem. He left without another word. After the door closed, I stood in my apartment, my real home, the one I'd designed and built and earned, and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 8 months. Sarah and James came back in. You okay? Sarah asked. Getting there, I admitted. Thank you both. For everything. Just doing our job, James said. Though I have to say, this was one of the more satisfying cases we've worked. Most victims don't have the resources or foresight to protect themselves like you did. I had both, I said. But I also had something else. I knew my worth. I just needed to remember it. After they left, I cleaned up the foam from my deliberately ruined lasagna, threw away the pizza no one had eaten, and poured myself a glass of actual good wine, a 2015 Bordeaux I'd been saving. My phone buzzed. My assistant. The blog post about tonight's lasagna got 50K likes in an hour. People love the perfectly imperfect aesthetic. Also, your 8 a.m. meeting with the SoftBank investors is confirmed. Should I prepare the usual portfolio? I smiled and typed back, yes, and add a new slide about resilience and knowing when to cut losses. I think I have some relevant experience. I walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, glass in hand, and allowed myself a moment of something that felt like victory, but deeper. Relief, maybe. Or vindication. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This is Devon. I know you said Trevor shouldn't contact you, but I needed to say something. My girlfriend Jenna just told me she's been in your shoes. Different guy, same pattern. Your courage tonight gave her courage to finally end it. Thank you. Then another message. Different number. Hi, this is Amber. I know I don't deserve your time, but I looked up Catalyst Solutions. You're the CEO? Trevor said you did data entry. I can't believe I believed him. I'm so sorry. For what it's worth, I'm changing how I treat people. What I saw tonight made me realize I've been an accomplice to bullying. I'm going to do better. And another. Dr. Reeves. This is Detective Morrison. Off the record, you handled that perfectly. Most abuse victims take years to recognize the patterns and even longer to take action. You did it in weeks and built an airtight case. If you ever want to do consulting work for victim advocacy programs, let me know. They need people who understand strategy and protection. I read the messages one by one, feeling something shift inside me. This hadn't just been about Trevor. It had been about drawing a line, about refusing to shrink myself to make someone else comfortable, about trusting my instincts even when gaslighting tried to convince me I was wrong. My real phone, my work phone, rang. My COO. Vivian? I know it's late, but the SoftBank team moved up the meeting. They want to talk tomorrow at 6 a.m. instead of 8. Something about another offer on the table. Can you make it? I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. 6 a.m. would give me a little over 6 hours to prepare, sleep, and arrive ready to negotiate a deal that could take my company to unicorn status. I'll be there, I said. Send me the updated proposal docs. And Marcus, thank you for always treating me like the CEO I am, even when I'm venting about my personal life. Always, he said warmly. You're brilliant at your job, Vivian. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and began reviewing the SoftBank proposal, my mind already shifting into strategy mode. This was who I was. Someone who built empires, led teams, and changed industries. Not someone's meal ticket, not someone's joke, not someone defined by a partner's limited imagination. Around 2 a.m., as I finalized my presentation notes, My personal email pinged. An automated notification from my bank. Trevor had made the first payment, $5,000, transferred with a memo that read only, "I'm sorry. I'll be better." I stared at those words for a long moment. Part of me, the part that had genuinely hoped he'd be different, felt sad. Not for losing him, but for the person he could have been if he'd chosen honesty over manipulation. But mostly, I felt free. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and walked to my bedroom. On my nightstand sat a framed photo of my grandmother, taken on her 80th birthday last year at the Tuscan villa. She was laughing, arms spread wide, standing in front of rolling vineyards. "You were right, Nonna," I whispered to the photo. "You said anyone who can't love me at my smallest doesn't deserve me at my biggest." I should have listened sooner. But I'd listened eventually, and that was what mattered. The next morning, I walked into the SoftBank meeting in my Tom Ford suit, carrying confidence earned through survival. I negotiated hard, never apologizing, never diminishing my company's value. By noon, I'd secured a term sheet that valued Catalyst Solutions at $500 million, nearly double our last round. As I walked out of the conference room to applause from my team, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Jenna, Devon's girlfriend. I just wanted you to know that watching you last night changed my life. I broke up with my ex who was doing the same things to me. I start therapy next week. I'm also applying to business school, something I always wanted, but he said I wasn't smart enough for. Thank you for showing me what strength looks like. You're my hero." I stopped in the middle of the hallway, reading those words again. My hero. I'd set out to protect myself, to document abuse, to draw boundaries. I hadn't expected to accidentally inspire others. But maybe that was the real power. Not the revenge, not the exposure, but the ripple effect of refusing to accept mistreatment. I typed back, "You're not broken, and you were always strong enough. You just needed to remember. Good luck in business school. You're going to be amazing. And hey, if you ever want to talk about entrepreneurship or need a letter of recommendation, let me know. Women need to support women." Then I put my phone away, walked back into my office, and got to work building the empire I'd always deserved. Trevor? He became a footnote in my story, a chapter about lessons learned, red flags recognized, and boundaries defended. Not the villain of my narrative, just a character who taught me to trust myself more than I trusted someone else's version of who I should be. And that, I realized, was the real victory. 3 months later, I received an envelope at my office. Inside was a handwritten letter from Trevor. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. "Dr. Reeves, I'm writing this as part of my court-mandated therapy, but also because I genuinely mean it. I've spent the past 3 months in counseling, and I'm finally understanding what I did to you. Not just the financial stuff, the emotional abuse, the manipulation, the systematic tearing down of someone who only wanted to be loved. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I'm working on myself. My therapist says I have patterns that started way before you, and they'll take years to unpack. I'm doing the work. I also wanted to tell you something I never told you when we were together. You intimidated me. From day one, there was something about you. A confidence, a competence, a wholeness that made me feel small. So I tried to make you smaller. I'm not proud of it, but I understand it now. You deserved someone who celebrated your success, not someone who needed to sabotage it to feel adequate. I hope you find that person. I saw the TechCrunch article about your company. $500 million valuation. I'm not surprised. You were always extraordinary, even when I pretended not to see it. Be well, Trevor." I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Not as a trophy, not as vindication, but as a reminder. Some people can change, most people can't. And it was never my job to fix anyone but myself. That evening, I had dinner with my grandmother via video call, her sitting in the Tuscan sunset while I ate takeout at my desk. "You look happy, Piccola," she said in her accented English. "Really happy. Not pretend happy." "I am, Nonna," I said, smiling. "I really am." "Good," she said firmly. "You know what your grandfather used to say? The right person will love you at your strongest. The wrong person will only love you when you're weak." You found out which one he was. I did. And now? Now I'm focusing on me, my company, my dreams. If someone amazing comes along who sees the real me, great. If not, also great. She raised her wine glass to the screen. "Salute to that, my strong girl. Salute." I raised my water bottle in return, grinning. Later, as I locked up my office and headed home, I passed a group of young professionals at a bar, laughing and celebrating something. One woman caught my eye. She looked tired, a bit uncertain, her boyfriend's arm around her possessive rather than protective. I almost kept walking, but then I remembered Jenna's text. The ripple effect. I approached the group. "Excuse me," I said to the woman. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to give you this." I handed her my business card, my real one, with my CEO title and direct email. "If you ever need advice, a job lead, or just someone to talk to about anything, reach out. No strings attached. Just woman to woman." She looked at the card, then at me, something like recognition flickering in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. I nodded and walked away, not knowing if she'd ever use it, but knowing I'd offered what I'd once needed. A reminder that strength was possible, that escape was achievable, that self-worth didn't require anyone's approval. As I drove home through the city lights, my city, I felt something settle into place. Not closure. I'd already had that. Something better. Peace. And the bone-deep certainty that I would never again mistake someone's limitation of me for a limitation in myself. That was the real ending to the story. Not the exposure, not the revenge, not even the business success. Just me, whole and undiminished, walking forward into whatever came next. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.